Welcome to Cash Flow Savannah. Can everybody please find a seat? We're going to start our presentation.
A want? Does somebody want something? I'm sure we're all here to want something.
Who has a want? We've got people in the room with properties. If you want properties, put your hand up. If you want it, say it. This is the room.
I'm asked your help for the introduction. All right. Like a good neighbor. A couple of folks know. All right. My name is Vernon Johnson with State Farm. I'm an insurance agent, and a couple of my clients are in here. And I think they would vouch for me as having some of the best rates when it comes to investment property. I would love the opportunity to talk to everybody and give them a quote. Look me up. My name is Vernon Johnson with State Farm.
You have one?
That was quick. Hey, that was quick.
But what I'm looking for is a deep water lot. Anybody who knows, it needs to be bare ground. I don't care. Anything hooked up to deep water, that's what I'm looking for. Anybody knows of anything?
Wholesalers, did your ears just perk up? Mike? I have a couple people I want to announce really quick.
Yeah, I do have a want.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll share my want. We do have a triplex. It's mine that I'm selling, subject to or cash deal. It's grossing $5,800 a month, and mortgage is $3,500. So you can gross cash flow $2,300. Cash sale is $580, and then subject to is $615. So if you want a triplex, it's fully renovated, fully occupied. So come see me.
Okay, and I have a want, and it's about Vernon Donovan, who spoke up, is my insurance agent. I love you. You're awesome. And I want him to sponsor this meetup. I've asked you 14 times, so I'm going to ask you again from stage. So when you see Vernon, say, you need to sponsor this meetup because there's a whole lot of people with a whole lot of houses in this room. Vernon, you know how much real estate is represented in this room? He just handed out a card. That's a future sponsor right there. Right? Always be selling. That's what I'm doing. 2 VIPs here I want to introduce everyone to. Number 1 is my VIP. For the first time ever, my husband is here. And please greet him if you have a chance. Don is right here, and he's never come. He works hard, and he's always like, nah, go ahead. And I'm so excited. So I'm so honored to have him here. So please give him a warm welcome if you meet him. And please raise your hand if you own right now a short-term rental or for any kind of furnished rental. Okay. You are lucky because my account manager is here from Airbnb. And you have to have a very big property manager. I have one, and I am. And Dion Chung is in the back. I love her so much. She's awesome. And if you have any issues with Airbnb, any questions about Airbnb, any feedback for Airbnb, or if you just want to give her a high five, she takes it on the chin a lot because she has a lot of clients that are managers and they're stressed. And I hate to say it, Dion, that we only reach out when we have an issue. We rarely go, hey, how are you? You look beautiful today. It's always like, I got a 1-star review and it violates the terms and conditions. Like, this is what she does all day. So don't be gentle. And she can't be your account rep, but for tonight, she's happy to talk to you, answer questions. This is a big deal. This has never happened. And Dion is awesome. Chandler and I ate lunch with her today at the Pirate House. It was so fun. And so anyway, she doesn't live here. She won't be back. So if you get a chance, grab her for a minute. She's fantastic. She will help your listings rise in the search results, I'm proud to say. So anyway, welcome, Dion. I'm really happy to have you. So, and thank you for coming. She didn't get much sleep last night, and she's still here. So we do have a really major announcement. I don't know. Oh, first I want to say for y'all in the back, if you need it, there are chairs over here. There's plenty of chairs. We have a few in the front, so please don't stand if you don't want to. But Suzanne and I, we love each other, and we go to breakfast every now and again, and we work on this meetup, and we love all of you guys, and it's so hard to get y'all to stop talking because we all just enjoy each other so much. So we decided that we want more, and we're going to continue having this meetup every month. Nothing is going to change. And P.S., if you want to know about the meetup, you have to follow Keegley or Sid was here or Cashflow Savannah on social. I finally give up with the email list. So please follow us on social media, and you will always know we will meet every month except December. We're going to be here. But if you feel like more, we're starting a new event, and it's called Real Estate for Breakfast. So we will be meeting once a month in Pooler at First Watch. It's a really great, if you have not been there, 5-star review, okay? It is so good. So we're going to meet, like today we're meeting, and then 2 weeks from now, February 28th, we're going to meet for breakfast. It's casual. You do have to pay for your own breakfast, but come, see who shows up. Suzanne and I will be here, as well as I'm sure Emma and Miriam, and hopefully all of you guys show up. So we're just going to take over First Watch. We're going to hang out and network and eat a really good breakfast, and then you can go about your work day. So 7:30 a.m., February 28th, First Watch in Pooler.
I see some people shaking their heads.
It's too early? No. And if you want, we can go look at real. Oh, it's too late. Oh, Beatrice is already at her desk at 7:30. Okay, sorry. Maybe once a month. So anyway, want to announce that. We will be putting that on social media, but please join us for breakfast at First Watch. It's going to be fantastic. Did I miss anything? I did.
I think you got everything.
Okay. You guys, we have a really great speaker. He's a friend of this meetup. He's local. He's available. Alex Chiappetta. He came on our podcast. Anyone know about Cash Flow Savannah podcast? We have the host here, Chandler Newman. It's a great podcast about local real estate. Alex came on, and man, he made Chandler and I's head explode. Some of the stuff he said, we were like, you've done what? Alex is full-time with the Air Force. He does have a background in construction, and he has started a side business, which I want you to know about. I'm pushing it for him because I'm not sure how comfortable he is selling for himself. But if anyone has a house and it looks like junk, that's what I buy at least, it's like total pieces of junk. He will go in for you for $250. He will go in, he will give you a scope of work, and he will give you a rehab budget within 10% either side of what it's going to come down to. So he is now providing that service for investors who really have no idea what the rehab will cost, and you don't want to get it under contract and buy it and then realize it's $50,000 more than you planned. So if you need the service, Alex is awesome. He has an amazing knowledge of rehab. So Alex, welcome. Where did you go? I lost him. Alex is here. Alex Chiappetta, everyone, and he's going to give you the rest of his bio. So welcome.
Okay, so quick background. I went to school in Montana, went for industrial engineering. I love processes. You'll learn about me. I'm a huge process nerd. I worked in tech for a while doing that, and when I left tech, I went and worked for a guy doing fix and flips in Denver. The company was called Elevation Investment Properties. We scaled from doing about 2 projects at a time to about 6 projects at a time. We never took a loss. It was one of our big proud moments. Closest we ever came was on a pop top. But a lot of what I did when I was there was take that investor who was great at investing and took what he had in his head and turned into a system that was repeatable and trainable that we could teach other people on and really grow it into something more. And so that's a lot of what I did. So what I'm going to kind of teach you guys today is really the system I used for going through these properties and how I look at them. All right, so when I think about a fix and flip, a rehab, any kind of renovation, there's 4 key documents I think you need for this process. The first one is going to be your budget. You got to know how much it's going to cost. You need a clearly defined statement of work that outlines exactly what's to be done per room, per trade, that you can give to a contractor and talk through with them so you're on the same page, you're not having miscommunications, as well as a bill of materials. I use this for all my fixtures and finishes of I want this vanity to go in this room, I want this tile on the floor, I want this grout, all those design elements I put on my bill of materials. And my last piece, of course, is my timeline, because these projects will creep, and if you don't have it laid out, and you'll have contractors who often will be like, I can get this done in 8 weeks. And you're looking at the project and you're like, this is a 12-week project. And so you just sit down and talk through it and say, okay, demo, how long is that going to take? 2 days. Okay, framing, it's going to take us 3 days. You can pretty quickly build out a timeline and come up with the realistic numbers so you guys can be honest with each other and from day one be on the same page so you don't have that friction with your contractor, which can very often happen in a rehab project. And the goal to remove that is just good communication and good planning up front. So when I go inspect houses, there's a couple things I bring with me. If you ever see me, I normally have a fanny pack on because I like to put all my stuff in there. I'm normally going to bring some sort of notebook to write with, my phone. I like to take a little video because a lot of times I'll miss things. I can go back and watch it. And the other key tools I always bring is a plug tester, which is being hidden behind a little sign right now, so I can check and make sure the plugs are properly grounded, as well as a good flashlight. Your phone flashlight does not go very far, but having a good powerful one so you give an addict so you can look around underneath houses. And then a good tape measure or a laser is pretty useful because you can kind of shoot it around the house to get done a lot quicker. These kind of cheap tools go a long ways to help you be effective in looking at everything at the house. All right, never mind. All right, so estimating the cost of a house. I break a house down into component pieces. Just like when it's built in components. You have to think of it in terms of components. So kind of going down, I like to start with the exterior of the house because when I approach a house, that's what I see first. And you can see a lot about a house just from the outside. And you can very quickly a lot of times see if this project's going to work or not. Because you may walk up and see foundation issues, needs a new roof, needs new windows. You already know right there you could be 30 grand in and you haven't even stepped foot in the house. And so I always start on the outside, do a quick loop around the house, look for different things, look at the neighborhood, get an idea of what's going on around the house. Then I'm going to go in, I'm going to focus on my major systems, being my electrical system, my HVAC, and my plumbing. Those again are going to be your next biggest costs, followed by your kitchens, your baths, and then just your general areas of the house. So the exterior systems, foundations. I came from a place where they had a lot more basements, so it's a little bit easier to look at them. Here we have a lot more of these crawl spaces. You will find this very often in Savannah where you'll have supports that are falling down. You'll find random things shimmed underneath there. And a lot of times when I look at houses, some of the things I'll see, if you see a house sloping, I'll look around the outside. A lot of times you'll see bad drainage. You'll see this line about a foot out from a house of like a dirt line. If you ever seen it before, normally it's because there's no gutters. So the water is raining down right there, heavy rain, the soil gets softened, that corner starts sinking. And you start seeing it in cracks in the brick. Things are shifting underneath, and you'll see it inside the house too. And so I like to look for those key pieces in there too. And you kind of see a good example of new piers versus old piers of when you're looking underneath the house. These are the types of things you're looking for. You'd be surprised how often you go underneath there and they have random pieces of brick or, the foundation just barely being held up. And those are things to really be aware of you start moving that house around, is things going to fall off? Or is a end buyer, when they go to buy this house and they have their own inspector, they're going to see these things and you're still going to have to fix it anyways. So get it done up front and use that as ammunition to when you go and buy the house, talk through it with the seller that you're buying it from to say, hey, you have these issues, we need to resolve them, here's how much it's going to cost to get this stuff done. Exterior more, we have a lot of brick houses here. When you see issues like this is going to let you know there's something going on in the foundation. Cracking, anytime I see something like this going on the outside, again, I'm probably going to see those soft spots where waters come off. As well as I'm going to go inside the house and probably see similar signs inside. Whether it's around windows and doors cracking like this, it tells me there's something going on with the foundation. Doesn't mean it's not solvable. Doesn't mean I don't want to buy the house. I just want to be aware of it and plan for it in my budget. Next one is roofs. First thing I always look for is does it have architectural shingles or 3-tab shingles? You can have a 3-tab, doesn't necessarily mean it's old, it's a little bit cheaper shingle, but normally if it has architectural shingles, it's probably been done pretty recently. And you just look for little things like this. Shingles coming up, spots where it's kind of worn away, the flashing around different pieces. Are you seeing stuff peel off? Also was at a house and I could see the drywall or the roofing shingles were probably about an inch thick because they put so many layers on top of it. That's something to be aware of too, is you can sometimes put another layer on top of the roof, that's completely acceptable, but at a certain point you can only do that so many times. You have to take it off and that demo cost is going to be astronomically more because there's so much shingle they have to remove on there. So I put a couple just estimates of costs on them. They normally go off squares the way they do it. A lot of roofers can use just Google Images or another tool, Eagle View I think it's called, to look at it and they can bid roofs pretty easily. But I'm looking for issues like that, as well as when I get in the house, I look up in the attic and look for wet spots. That's where you're going to really be able to see the decking and see, is the decking broken? Are we going to take the shingles off and replace some of the wood? The attic's where you're going to see the best amount of that information, but on the outside you can see dips and you'll see issues in it from there. Also, I put the note on there, skylights. Stay away from skylights and look very closely at them because those are always a known thing to leak. They rarely seem to be done correctly or just over time they have issues. Be aware of skylights. All right, windows. Two common types of old windows you'll see, these metal ones and then these ones that have like the rope pulley. These can be pretty cool in some older houses, but they are a pain in the ass to deal with. I've had to get these ones repaired. It's expensive. You need a specialty type person to do it. Oftentimes they don't have good insulation. Some people like them. Sometimes you don't have to replace them because they fit with the look of the house, but it's something to be aware of in there. Now, if you see these old metal windows, I normally like to replace them, give someone a good insulated window in there, but windows have got more expensive recently. Normally the labor isn't too bad. It's really just the window itself that's going to cost you a good amount of money. You can normally go into Home Depot, look up the cost of the window, and this is the type of item that I normally can work as a per item with my contractor and say, hey, we got 15 windows, how's $300 a window sound to you? And I kind of work it that way when I put my bid together with them. All right, mechanical systems, HVAC. Old HVACs are pretty common here. I see a lot of them. One of the most common things I like to do is, here we have a lot of the HVAC closets. So if I know I'm going to put a new HVAC system in, I normally like to, if there's an attic, put the HVAC in the attic, get out of the way, create more storage space in the house. Some places you can put them underneath, but most of the time, attics can be your best bet for it. AC units as well, need a good AC unit. I just got one bid on a 3-bed, 2-bath house that had no ducting currently, so it needs a full system install. House about 2,000 square feet, and they were going to charge me just over $13,000. That seems pretty realistic about right now, what I'm seeing. But this is a key thing to look for. Half time with HVAC systems, what I look for, if it looks old, it probably is old. You know, sometimes you can find dates on them, sometimes you can't, but I look at them at a minimum, get a little tune-up on it, but I generally just look at it. If it looks old like that, I'm probably going to assume we're going to need a new HVAC system in here. Like I was talking about these closets, like you see a lot of houses that'll be in the kitchen. A lot of times, like if I get rid of this HVAC system, I can have a great pantry right here. So things to keep in mind. Sometimes I've even just moved them. Even though the HVAC was fine, I said, hey, let's move it up into the attic. And it was worth it for the $1,000 to move it just to create that extra storage space in the house. Hot water heaters, normally I always have a date on that. So that's an easy way to find it. Just go in there and find that date, let you know how old it is. And then a lot of times with your plumbing too. In a perfect world, every house would have PEX, which is like the standard right now. It's nice because it's red and blue, so you know what's hot and cold. But a lot of the houses you're going to find are probably going to have galvanized plumbing, which gets built up like that, or the copper PVC, which isn't bad either. But in a perfect world, PEX is what you want. PEX is what you love to see. But it's probably what you're going to be installing, not what you're buying. Also with sewer lines, I think, perfect. Sewer lines. This is one thing that I think a lot of people miss. It can cause you a ton of cost and just issues down the road. I always spend the money on a sewer scope. The $300 or $400 that it costs to get it done versus the cost to replace a sewer line is, the cost benefit is there all day long. If I don't see sewer cleanouts, I know that sewer line hasn't been touched probably since the house was built. So anytime they're going to redo the sewer line, they're going to put in a cleanout. If you see no cleanouts, you know that sewer line is old. And I'm definitely going to get it scoped then. Because the chances of you having issues like this are very common, especially roots. There's a lot of trees that are going to grow into there. I've seen sewer lines go, actually my cousin had a house that the sewer line was so deep that they had to reinforce the walls, dig the trench. It was a $50,000 project because it ended up being a 50-foot long sewer line and it was 10 feet deep. And like these things can come up and you want to know about that because that very quickly will eat your entire profit margin, if not put you in the red very quickly. You know, if you're seeing this kind of stuff cast iron underneath there, again, you know it's old. Find a plumber who'll do it, spend the $300 to $500, get it scoped, say, hey, I want the video, send me a YouTube link of it, and watch the video and make sure you don't see anything there. Normally they'll write out for you of, hey, at 62 feet, there's this and that. Sometimes they can just clean it. Sometimes they're going to say, hey, we got to replace this whole section, but you want to know this information because if you don't do it, again, the end buyer may end up doing it, and then you're still going to be stuck with that cost anyways. Electrical, everyone's favorite. You're seeing stuff like this. You know it's got to go. Knob and tube stuff, the cloth wiring or these old light switches. With panels, anything under 100 amps, especially you're going to look for the biggest switch on there. You'll see a number on it. If it's 100 amps and you're especially going to have to put a new HVAC system in, you know you're going to have to upgrade the panel. Because a good electric HVAC system is probably going to be about 90 amps. So that right there is going to eat up all your power in the house if you don't do it. And the two companies you want to look out for, I haven't found any here yet, but I used to find them in Colorado all the time, is Stablock and Federal Pacific. Does anyone know why you don't use those two companies? You always replace it. Fire hazard. There's a reason these companies don't exist anymore. It's because their systems caught on fire, which is why you will not find those companies. So if you ever see one of those two names on it, immediately you know you need to put a new panel in. All right, asbestos. Nobody likes asbestos. The good thing about asbestos, dealing with it, is there's ways around it. If you see it on the flooring like this, a lot of times you'll see those 12 by 12 tiles. Those are normally not asbestos, but if you ever see the 9 by 9 tiles, those most of the time you can assume are asbestos. Doesn't mean to remove them. You can just encapsulate them, put new flooring on top of them, don't disturb them. But a lot of times if you see that 9 by 9 tile, it's probably asbestos. If you see the scalloped edge siding, which you see a lot of in Savannah, probably asbestos, just something to be aware of that if they want to go re-siding over it, it's just something to be aware of. The bigger one you may have to deal with would be if you see ductwork that's wrapped in what looks like this white medical tape. That normally is asbestos ducting as well. Be aware of that. That's something you probably have to get professionally removed in that case. All right, so we're getting a little bit of the meat and potatoes. Before I do that, I'll see if there's any questions over the stuff we just covered. And I'm going through a lot pretty quickly.
I was just going to ask if you could slow down, ever so slightly.
Definitely. I can also send this PowerPoint presentation. There's nothing that proprietary, and I'm not afraid to share. I was trying to be conscious everyone's time, but I will slow down. Definitely. And if you see those cracks, again, always go inside and try and verify. Look for the same signals inside. You see sloping in the floor. I literally have brought in a marble to a property just to set it down and see which way it rolls. So I can tell you if there's a slope in a certain area of the house. And so if you see it on the outside, go confirm it on the inside. Try to look underneath the house. Try and just triangulate and say, is there an actual issue here? Or is it just a facade issue that really doesn't matter because it's those little fake half bricks that don't matter at all? Yep, that's done by a plumber because a lot of times they have to take the toilet up. So technically you're supposed to be a certified plumber to take the toilet up, especially if there's no clean outs. That's the way they generally have to go in. And I've tried buying the cheap little cameras on your own. They don't work nearly as well as the one. They have a good one. They can really get it all the way through that sewer line. It can be 100 feet long, and they've got like a 200-foot cable that'll go right through there and get a good video of it. So I think the key takeaway there was 60 linear feet. It's going to be a lot bigger problem for you if you get into that stuff. Either way, it's not going to be good, but we all learned something good about asbestos today. All right, so my goal here with the kitchen is to explain how to break down a kitchen and figure out how much it's going to cost you to rehab a kitchen. And we're going to do this all together. We're going to do it all off of these 3 photos right here. You can use these 3 photos or photos you see online to estimate the cost of a kitchen very quickly. With these 3 photos, we can determine a handful of things. The dimensions of this room, how big of a wall opening we want or can have, because that's the living room on the other side. This is actually my house, or before I was done being remodeled. The number of cabinets you're going to need, normally they count them in boxes. So if you think of a cabinet with 2 doors, that would be 1 box, or a single door, that's another box. Your total countertop square footage, as well as your backsplash square footage. Everyone think we can do it? We can do it in probably 5 minutes. All right, so these are the key components of a kitchen. A lot of times you do tile, so some sort of flooring and backsplash. It's probably going to be tile, could be LVP, but we'll do tile for this one. A lot of times you're going to open a wall, have to put a beam in there. Your cabinets, which are normally done in box counts. Countertops, plus your sink. Don't forget that piece. Your appliances, a little bit of electrical work. You normally got to add in GFCIs and some lighting in there. As well as your finishes, which I would call, your plumbing fixtures, your water line for your fridge, your disposal, those kind of key other pieces. So we're going to start and figure out how do we figure out the material and labor for the flooring, backsplash, and opening the wall. We're going to put a couple assumptions in here to help us, and this is how I do my rehab estimations right here. I'll start with tile and say, okay, I'm assuming about $15 a square foot to do tile. And this is a number I'm generally going to give to my contractor and say, hey, here's how I came with my number. He may negotiate and say, hey, I want $16. He may be okay with that. I might have overbid it, but that's from a number I go off of right now. For flooring tile, I normally try to stay around $5 a square foot, but for backsplash, I'm normally willing to spend a bit more. You don't need much of it, and it can really bring a kitchen together. So it's a key, important piece you want in there. This one I kind of off the top of my head, LVL beams, normally about $50 a linear foot, up to a certain length. Once you start getting pretty long, they're going to be a lot more, but when they're 10, 12 feet, they're normally not terribly expensive to get put into your house or get them bought. They don't have to order them from Home Depot, but they're not terribly expensive. All right, so we're going to look at this kitchen. Does anyone have any ideas of how we can figure out the dimensions of this kitchen? Tiles. Tiles are a great way to do it. So for example, here, we can use the tiles to do it, and then we'll also do it with the cabinets as well. So on this bottom one right here, on this, I count about 13 and a half tiles in that one. That's about right where we landed on there. And then this opening, about 9.5 feet for it. The tiles are not always perfect. They're normally pretty close to 12, helps do a good estimate. On this wall, though, what you could use is the cabinets here. We know that right where that kind of electrical panel is, the fridge was. And the standard width of a fridge is 36 inches. Next to that, we have the range. Standard width of a range, 30 inches. So now we're already at 5.5 feet. We know a countertop is 24 inches deep You can see that next cabinet looks about a square. So it's there, it's probably a 24-inch box. And then we got another countertop, so another 24 inches. So right there, we just went 3 feet, 2.5, 2, and 2, gives a total of 9.5 feet. So that's how I could estimate this very quickly, just by looking at photos on Zillow and figure out how big this kitchen is. Now, same thing with our backsplash. We know we're not going to run the backsplash behind the fridge, just behind the range. So we could just do that same math here. And then we also know that standard cabinets are put 18 inches above your countertop. So whatever you get for your length, multiply it by 1.5 feet, and that'll give you the square footage of the backsplash on there. Same thing can be done on this wall. Instead, in this case, we'll count these cabinets and say, we know that counter is 24 inches. So we got a 24-inch cabinet. That one looks about a foot. We know a sink normally is a 36-inch base. So we got another 3 feet there. Got about a 1-foot cabinet, and then about a 1-foot piece on the end. So we end up at about 8 feet. That gives us our total backsplash, 6.5 plus 8. Gives us 22 square feet of backsplash, and the room being 9.5 by 13.5 gives us about 130 square feet of tile. So those are the basic dimensions we need to figure out the tile in this room. So now we can add those pieces in. Say our floor tile is about $5 a square foot, and our backsplash is about $15 a square foot. Now we got material cost. Do the same thing. Now we got our labor cost. With the LVL beam, we know we wanted that wall opened about 9 feet, or in this case, 10 feet. I threw in about $1,000 for labor. It's pretty realistic. That's how much I paid for it too, to throw that in there. But now we just estimated those two costs off those 3 pictures. Everyone following that? Everyone think they can do it at home? All right, on the next one. Now let's get into cabinets and countertops. We're going to do this off the existing layout. I'll kind of show you what the end product was, but off partially the existing layout. So I normally assume if we're just buying the Home Depot white shaker basic cabinets, about $250 for an upper cabinet and about $300 for a lower cabinet. There's going to be a little plus or minus in there, but kind of basic numbers to go off of. In general, I'd rather be more conservative and overestimate and come in under my budget, because at least then I asked my lender for the right amount of money and I came in under. And it just helps me build in some contingency in my budget too, because things will come up. No matter what you do, things will come up. Oh, I also put a pantry cabinet there, about $500 for a pantry cabinet. And then for countertops, the bid I got for this house was about $100 a square foot for quartz. I ended up going with butcher block, because you can see the difference, about $25 a square foot for butcher block. And normally a sink is about $300. They normally add that cost in. They'll generally install it for you, especially if you're doing quartz. But don't forget to add that cost in as well. So now we're going to do the same thing with these 2 pieces. We know that opening could be about 10 feet. If this is 13.5, but we're going to keep that little bit of wall right there for the fridge, and we're going to want the space for a walkway, we got probably about 8 feet to work with. So this is what I put in: an 18-inch pantry, a 30-inch lower, 30-inch lower, another 18-inch lower. That gave me my first 3 boxes, being 3 lowers and 1 pantry, as well as I can also figure out my countertop space there. And say, okay, this is going to be a little peninsula, so I know I've got 6.5 feet long, but my counters are 24 inches deep, and then if I want an overhang, I got to go over a little pony wall, so another 6 inches, and then a little bit of overhang. So we're going to estimate about 36 inches wide and 6.5 feet long. So our first slab is going to be 20 square feet. And I'm normally going to give them just the total square footage. They're going to figure out how to cut up the slab for it, but it helps me do this for my math. Now for the next wall, we know our fridge is going to go there, our microwave is going to go there, our range is going to go there. So we got a couple pieces in place already. We know we're going to keep the cabinets the same, so we got 1, 2, 3 uppers and 1 lower box. I'm going to count this cabinet on that wall. I'm not going to do that one. I'll do that one on the next wall. So we got 3 more uppers, and now we're at 3 lowers and a pantry cabinet. And then we also know that little square right there is about 2 feet by 2 feet. So we got another 4 square feet for our countertops. So now we're at a total of 24 square feet for countertops. Now on our sink wall, one thing that's missing here is a dishwasher. We can throw that one in there. And we do the same thing. We got another lower here. It's probably going to be a blind corner, which might be a little bit more, but again, that's why you kind of do a little bit of higher number to balance that out. And then you're going to have a sink base as well. And we do the same thing. We know this is an 8-foot long countertop based on our measurements earlier. So we got another 16 square feet. Now we can take all this information, plug it in right here. We got 6 lowers, 1 pantry, 3 uppers. Gives a total of 28, 5, 32.50. My math is right. And then I normally will do something like a price per box to install. One thing I commonly see is, especially if someone is just going and getting their kitchen done and doesn't do investments, investment properties, fix and flips, is your contractor is probably going to be like, all right, 20 grand for cabinets and install. You're not going to know what the split is of that. And so I normally like to buy my cabinets because that does not, if I have a blind number of $20,000, there's a lot of good GCs out there, but there's also ones who are going to say, I'm going to buy the cheapest cabinet possible because all the rest of that is spread for my amount of time I put into it, which is why I like to buy the cabinets. Also, I like the credit card points. All the fixtures and finishes I like to buy. I like the credit card points. That's why I travel for free. And I just say, give me a price per box. I normally give them $200 a box. Is pretty fair. Probably takes them 30 minutes to an hour to put it in. That's a pretty good rate for getting that work done for an hour, $200 an hour. Comes to countertops, as you can see, when I thought about doing quartz, it ended up being about 4 times the cost of butcher block. And luckily, butcher block is really in right now. So that's something I've been using. It works pretty well in there. But most of the time when you do this by square footage, install is normally included in that. That price is the slab and install from your fabricator over there. All right, we got 2 more of these done. The rest of these are kind of all just things we can assume. So we can assume a standard appliance package about $3,000 for a new appliance package, about $250 to have them install everything. Electrical, disposal, lighting, some GFCIs, about $1,000 in there, and a couple finished pieces. So this whole kitchen, we're going to spend about $9,830 in materials and $6,500 in labor, bringing our total for this kitchen $16,360. Any questions on that? I know I went through that math kind of quickly. Go ahead. I think your kitchen is one of your number 1 most valuable rooms in the house. Kitchens and baths. It's hard to quantify it exactly, but what are things people look at? I mean, kitchens are really generally what sells people on the house. That if I'm going to put money anywhere, kitchens and baths. Kitchens and master bath. 2 biggest ones. Would you agree with that? Anyone disagree with that? There's plenty of people with more experience than me in that, but that's where I'm putting the money in. Yeah, people love a nice kitchen. Any questions here? All right. I'm not going to go fully through a bathroom. I'll do it in a quick form, but you can do the exact same thing with a bathroom. And the reason why I do these rooms like these is because these are your 2 highest ticket item rooms. You know, paint you can only do just based off square footage of the house. You can look at them in county records. These ones you need a couple photos to figure them out. So for a bathroom, one of the most important measurements to know is a standard tub. It's 2.5 feet by 5 feet. So if I know that this is 2.5 feet by 5 feet, we got another 2.5 feet. That means I have 10 linear feet of tile. And then how high the ceiling is, about 8 feet. I know I need about 80 square feet of tile. Maybe minus off a foot for the tub, so 70 square feet of tile. We just figured out the tile for that just by looking at it. Don't have to do much math on it, pretty quick. I also know most time you'll see bathrooms will be the width of the tub. So you know that bathroom's 5 feet wide. You kind of just look at it and say, it's about the same width that way. So it's probably about 5 by 5 there. So it's probably about 25 square feet of tile I'm going to need on the floor there. You know you're going to fit, you can even see where it was. You can fit a little vanity there, toilet there. Not much can really be done with this bathroom, but you can do that pretty quickly. Almost everything in this, with those numbers we already had before, plus a little bit of digging on Home Depot, you can estimate that bathroom very quickly. In most bathrooms, I think 5,000 is pretty realistic. If you get into a master suite and you do a custom poured pan and dual vanities, you're definitely getting into more cost. But when I do this, the key things I break these tubs or a bathroom down into is, again, my floor tile, my shower tile, the tub/pan. Am I putting a new tub in? Am I reglazing the existing tub? Am I putting a custom poured shower pan? Am I putting a plastic shower pan? All those pieces go into play there. Your vanity, your plumbing fixtures being your faucets and your shower faucet, and then all the little fixtures and finishes, towel bars, lights, mirrors. If you need to put a fan in there, all those other pieces that go into play. Everyone good on bathrooms? All right, we did the bathroom even quicker than we did the kitchen. A couple other numbers that I've used lately. Again, these are all market dependent. They kind of fluctuate. Interior pan, normally budget $3 or $4 a square foot, depending how much work there's going to be, how high are the ceilings, is there crown molding. You got to think about how much time it's going to take them to tape everything off because they're probably going to spray. If there's going to be a lot of tape work, it's probably going to cost you more to do it. Exteriors, I put 4+ because there's only 2 stories. And if you have a very detailed home, if you have a Victorian home, I've seen quotes of $30,000, $40,000 for those. There's so much detail work Exterior homes are normally more complex. There's more scraping, sidings need to be replaced. You're probably going to spend more on your exterior than your interior, just because of everything that goes into painting an exterior of a home. But, yeah, go ahead. Normally, paint's not terribly expensive. Sometimes it may be a negotiation. He says, hey, I'll do that price if you pay for the paint. You'll say, all right, I'll spend the $400 on paint at Home Depot. Paint's not normally terribly expensive, but if the house is really big, it could be a big expense. Trim is normally done by linear foot. Yep. I've always used the same paint color. I know the Sherwin-Williams code, it's SW7028. Still 5 years later. It makes it much easier if anyone ever asks you. You're just like, hey, it's this paint color. It's always the same one. You know, you can probably run a paint color for 3-4 years before the trend changes. So find one that's good. I think grays were kind of going out. I'm not the best at design, but it was gray for a long time.